Lean protein and vegetables should be the foundation of your diet. Hey everybody, I thought I would chat with you guys and gals a little bit about this today. And again, this is something that pretty much most dietitians, most doctors, most coaches who get people into extremely good shape, even bodybuilding prep coaches will all universally agree upon. And the only people who really deviate from this concept are extremists, people who are diet zealots, who go too far with everything, and not understanding that this really is the foundation of success for most people. If your goal is just overall health, overall body composition, whatever it is that you're trying to do. So remember, like the basis, and not saying your whole diet should be comprised of these things, although for extreme fat loss phases, it can actually work. It actually is not a bad idea. Definitely worse ways to go. But we're talking about the foundation of your diet. This is kind of like the cornerstones of it. And if you're consuming these things as a base, you have your stuff covered. And then beyond that, it becomes largely an issue of filling energy that you need, right? So everything else is then about the calorie needs that you have to fuel whatever activity it is that you're trying to do. Obviously, things have to be built around preference for taste and everything else. But what we're usually looking at is getting enough protein to maintain muscle if you're in a deficit, and enough to build muscle if you're in a surplus or even at maintenance calories. So we're looking at protein first, and then large amounts of vegetables to get all your fiber, phytonutrients, things like that. So usually I would say to people that's kind of your foundation, hitting your target protein, which should be for most people kind of a good baseline, is around 1.5 grams per kilogram of body weight. Okay, so for someone like me, I mean, I'm under 100 kilos now, probably not going back up to 100, but let's call that 100 kilograms of body weight. It's about 150 grams of protein. So that should be kind of the foundation, around 150 grams of lean protein sources. Okay, and I don't usually recommend higher fat protein. I think we should be filling our fats with higher quality fats if we're going to eat them at all. So again, that means leaner meats, leaner plant sources, to some extent, although plant fats are kind of a different issue. So we're talking chicken breast, lean cuts of steak, fish, turkey, low fat or fat-free dairy, again, such as, milk. I really like some of the ultra-filtered milks, like the Fairlife and Mootopia and things like that. Again, higher protein content, lower overall calories. Lactose has been filtered out. Okay, so again, if you have a lactose intolerance issue, that removes that. Those are great choices. Greek yogurt, very high on my list. Kefirs, fermented dairy, right, or cultured dairy. I mean, tends to be a phenomenal choice. If you're going to do more plant-based stuff, beans, bean proteins, pea protein, tofu. Tofu is a particularly good option here for people who are choosing to do mostly plant-based. Of course, I don't tell people to go fully plant-based. I think plant-based diets can be phenomenal, but if we're chasing maximizing body composition, getting some animal proteins in is a good idea. However, there's certainly nothing wrong with getting a very, very large portion of it from plants. So again, if you're trying to do that, I think tofu is actually a fantastic choice. I like it. I cook it. I eat it myself. So again, good options, right? This is your foundation for what you need for the body composition to help keep metabolic rate as high as possible, right? And healing various tissues and everything else. And again, people say, what if you're not lifting weights? Well, you should be lifting weights. If you care about your health, you lift weights. Not really a matter of opinion at this point. The scientific evidence supports this to the extreme. Most healthy physical activity you could do if you only did one, although we shouldn't be sedentary, we should be doing multiple activities. Even better to add some cardio to it. Then after that, getting lots of vegetables in. All right, again, the research is overwhelming showing the benefits of vegetables. Anyone telling you otherwise is a fanatic and a zealot who is following some extreme diet that is not supported by research, not supported by experts, anyone else. In general, high vegetable intake is correlated heavily with reduced all-cause mortality and longevity. So the higher your vegetable intake is, usually the better your odds of having good health. This is shown repeatedly in the statistics. So again, having vegetables as a foundation. Now if a person's going to do higher carbohydrate, because again, we've got to fill those calories elsewhere, fruits can certainly replace vegetables as far as this goes. So again, I'm not saying it has to be vegetables. I mean, as long as it's a variety of whole food plants, I think you're good to go. Because again, a lot of those same things that you're shooting from vegetables, you can absolutely get from fruit. It's just that they come with a little more calorie load. But again, we have to get our calories somewhere. So before someone says, well, I don't want the calories, well, you're not going to live on lean protein and vegetables. Right? You're not going to get enough calories to do anything other than extreme weight loss if you're physically active. So we've got to fill them somewhere. So then, beyond that, it does become an issue of how do you fill the rest of your calories. So any way you break it down, I advocate people eat almost exclusively whole foods. If you want junk, I am not a believer in flexible dieting day to day. I think that's harder to adhere to for most people. I recommend cheat meals. Plan a cheat meal every now and then and go do it if you want to get some junk in. And schedule around it, go into it fasted, things like that, or just protein load ahead of time. But then it's a matter of filling the rest of your calories in. So it's do you want to do a mix of carbs and fat, or do you want just carbs or fat mostly? Depends on what you're trying to do. People who want to drop more water and look a little leaner, sometimes keeping the carbs quite low and filling it with healthy fats works. Healthy fats going to be mostly polyunsaturated and monounsaturated that are not refined. So I'm not telling you to consume a bunch of vegetable oils. We're talking about whole foods, nuts, seeds, avocados, olives, right? Or fatty fish works in this case, salmon, mackerel, things like that. But yeah, nuts, nut butters, things like that. Way to go. If you're going to eat carbohydrate, fruits, whole grains, white rice is actually pretty reasonable, to be fair. It has been overly demonized for no reason. It's not necessarily a problem for people on a little more calories, right? Again, because it may not have as much nutrition, but if you're just needing the calories and starches to function because of your activity level, certainly nothing wrong with it, perfectly viable. But yeah, outside of that, the whole grains. So what do we mean? Oats, sweet potatoes, brown rice, beans, whole grains, right? Whole grains, legumes. Fruit, again, great choice here. Lots and lots of fruit. Hey, if a person follows this sort of approach and they consume appropriate calories for their goals, right? They consume appropriate calories for their goals. This is how a person should generally be eating. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys and gals next time.